Everything that Jesus foretold in the Gospel of Luke has happened, and it continues to happen. Jerusalem was destroyed less than 40 years after Jesus said these words. Wars and insurrections continue to ravage the world at a greater pace than ever before. Earthquakes, famines, and plagues have all ravaged the human family. Christians have been persecuted at a rate, in fact, faster than any other time in history. There were more martyrs in the 20th century than all the other centuries combined. Jesus wasn't kidding when he said, and he warned his disciples that things were going to get tough, that life would not be easy. And he said it because he was serious, and he wanted his disciples to be serious about following him. This Veterans Day weekend gives us a nice reminder that we fight for what we love, that we sacrifice for what we love. Men and women have given their lives for this nation because they believed in what we stood for. And it should be even more so with us who believe in Jesus Christ, who has come to rescue us from the clutches of the enemy and carry us home to the Father. But if we remove love from that equation, from the equation of sacrifice, of doing battle, if we take relationship out of the family and make this just another thing that we do in our lives because we're supposed to do it, then we lose our motivation to sacrifice, just like soldiers lose their motivation to fight. No one can withstand what Jesus foretold unless they believe in him. We cannot bear the challenges of this world if we are not in him. And we know this is true because of what he promises us in our gospel. There are two promises really that he makes. One is that not a hair of our head will be harmed, but I'm going to leave that one alone. He promised that he would give us a wisdom that the world cannot refute. He says, don't worry about what you're to say, because I'll give you a wisdom that the world cannot refute. But that wisdom is not ours, it's his. And so if we don't put on the mind of Christ, if we don't allow the Lord to educate us in how we are to live in this world and how we are to appreciate and to use the things around us, then that wisdom will not be ours. We won't think like the Lord, we'll think like everyone else. He also promises that our lives will be secured, which doesn't mean that we won't be put to death, because many martyrs have given their lives for the faith. But it means that our souls won't be lost, that our eternal lives will be secured. But look, we can't do that. That's not in our power. That's only because the Lord gives that to us, that God gives us that security in him, that death can't touch us, at least eternally. But it only works if we are in him, if we have immersed ourselves in the life of God. And this is why, for us as Christians, the end of the world is not what we should fear. It's going to come for all of us, but we don't have to be afraid. We don't have to stock up canned goods and build bunkers and buy ammunition to defend ourselves. Because the Lord is our salvation. And he is the Lord of everything. There is no salvation other than in him. And so the fear, our fear should not be the end of the world. Our fear should be walking away from the hands of God, allowing ourselves to be taken out of the hands of God. If we don't believe in him, if we don't belong to him, then we expose ourselves to all the challenges that will inevitably come, but without any defenses and without any chance of winning. So often we live our lives as if we were just kind of traveling down this road in some great semi, and we've loaded everything in the back, and we've got everything that we've want. We've stocked up all this stuff for ourselves. We're heading down the road where we think there will be blue skies and sunshine. We're listening to the radio and rocking to our own tunes along the way until this straight line wind comes across the highway and knocks us over. And then we have to call the hammer, and everything it gets ugly. It takes so little for us to be reminded that we don't stand a chance without God. This is what provokes the Lord to speak to us as he does through the prophet Malachi in that first reading. All the people leading up to that passage that we heard, all the people are saying, look, God, the evildoers are prospering. It's useless to serve God. We go around mourning all the day while they're celebrating, and we might find ourselves saying the same thing these days. Look at how those who do evil get away with it, and how they prosper from it, and how they rule over us with all their possessions and all their power. And God responds to us by saying what he does through the prophet. He says, you are my special possession. Don't worry about them. I'll take care of them down the road. You are my special possession. You belong to me, which means everything I have belongs to you. You are in my hands, so stay in my hands. Don't go running to something else. Because it's easy. We might be tempted to say, Lord, you've given me this illness, and so I'm going to go someplace else because you're not giving me what I want. Lord, you've taken away someone that I love, and I don't understand it, and so I'm going to go someplace else. God, you're not responding to me in the time that I want you to or in the way that I desire. And so I'm going to go someplace else. And we can remove ourselves from the hands of God, from the very hands that want to give us eternal life and eternal happiness. But if we have taken ourselves out of the hands of God, then how can he carry us to heaven? Friends, hell is not some trick to get us to behave the way that we're supposed to behave. Hell is the promise of justice. If we have removed ourselves from the hands of God, if we have freely decided to choose something else, because God is just, he'll give us what we want, but we may not want it. This is why God is always offering us mercy. But look, God is not going to give us something that we're not willing to receive. God is so good to us because he's never going to dump us out of his hand. The only way to leave is to walk away. If we want to wiggle our way out of his hands and do our own thing, God's not going to take away our freedom. But his desperate desire is to cling to us, to grab on to us, because he has created us to love us and to bring us to his love infinitely in heaven. And so as we approach the end of this liturgical year, with Advent just a couple weeks away, let's ask the Lord to help us to look back on this past year and to consider if we have stayed in his hands or if we've gone someplace else. How often have we surrendered ourselves into the hands of God, and how often have we said to the Lord, look, I'm tired of waiting. I'm going to do my own thing. Friends, there's only one person who can carry us into eternity, and it's not you. And it's not me. It's the God who comes to us every single day and says, just let me hold you. Just let me carry you to me. Let's ask God to embrace us once again with his infinite mercy and his tender love for us.